Pleasure.
Hi, Kenneth. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's such an honor to have you and to share you with all my community. I'm going to do a brief introduction in Spanish. So, hola a todos. Estamos con Kenneth Bozeman, que es un profesor emeritus de la Universidad de Wisconsin. Y nos va a estar dando un poco de información sobre sus libros en acústica, ¿sí? Este se llama Practical Vocal Acoustics y la entrevista va a ser en inglés, así que la voy a traducir, pero estamos muy contentos de tenerlo a Kenneth con nosotros. I've actually heard you in a conference, I told you, in Copenhagen last year, where you were presenting the chiaroscuro whisper, and I'd like everyone to learn a little bit about acoustics. I think is fascinating, and it's very useful as singers and as coaches or professors or whoever is involved in singing. I think it's great. So can you tell us a little bit about how did you get into the field of acoustics and singing?
Sure. Well, I sang from early in life, basically in my church background, and I thought I might be a music educator or a church musician, but then I got interested in opera and classical singing. So I majored in voice, and as I was working out my own voice and facing the problems of working out my own voice, I got very interested in wanting to understand how it worked. I heard some recordings of some great singers, classical singers. I was a classical singer. Jussi Björling in particular, Fritz Wunderlich, I was a tenor. And when I heard them doing certain things in their voice, I thought, how are they doing that? What are they doing? I have to figure that out. So that began a long journey to understand how their upper voice worked so well, how their range got exciting in the upper voice. And there were very steps along the way that led me to discover some things. So that's sort of.
And so this brought you to writing two books. I have the first one, and I'm waiting for the second that you said you're going to republish it, right?
There will be a second edition, hopefully early next year, of kinesthetic voice pedagogy. And it's rather expanded from the first edition, so it'll be about almost twice as long.
Oh, wow, we'll be waiting for that. So can you tell us a little bit about this, which is really good for people who know nothing about acoustics? And I've learned a lot. There is a lot of information in this book, very straight to the point, which I loved. But it's still not easy, let's say like that. So maybe you want to introduce us a little bit in the concepts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So my goal was to make vocal acoustics practical for the voice teacher. I study the voice science. I'm not a scientist. I'm a voice teacher. And I try to be a translator of what's useful from the voice science to the voice studio. So just very basically, when we produce sound, our vocal folds vibrate. And when they vibrate, they produce, if it's a clean vibration, a non-noisy one, which in classical we want a kind of a clean vibration, it produces a pitch that is comprised of the harmonic series, a set of harmonic frequencies. If you've ever heard about the harmonic sequence series, it goes like this. And it continues on up. Each of those harmonics are multiples of the lowest frequency. And they all combine together to create the color of the sound that we hear. Each harmonic has its own color, its own spectral tone color. I should take a brief moment to acknowledge my colleague Ian Howell, whose information is combined with mine. We teach together. He's pointed out that individual frequencies have a tone color to human perception. Wow. Just like humans see light frequencies as colors, we don't see light frequencies as numbers. We see them as colors, right? A different frequency is a different color to our brain. A different frequency is a different color to our ear, our brain's ear. Wow. So a low frequency by itself, if it were a single frequency, sounds low, dark, and ooh-like. Ooh. A high frequency sounds high, bright, and E-like. E. So if you hear a siren that takes a single frequency, and sweeps it, you hear wee, 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 or way, oh. Depends on how high and how low it goes.
So it's not really doing an E and an oo, it's just a frequency.
But our brain hears that as a vowel.
Oh, okay.
right? And so in between oo and e are a lot of other vowels.
Yeah.
So anyway, when we sing a tone, it has a whole harmonic series in it. Each of those frequencies is playing a vowel color, and they're all blending together in the color that we hear. So whichever frequency our vocal tract features more, that will dominate the vowel sound that we hear. So let me back up a
Okay.
moment. Back up.
Yes.
So we produce this nice source from the vocal folds. It's basically a pitched buzz. It sounds about like this duck call. Not particularly attractive. Nobody's going to pay money to listen to
So
that.
that's how the vocal cords sound.
If you could get a microphone all the way down in there and just hear the vocal folds, it's a pitched buzz, and that buzz is made up of all these harmonics. You put it into a tube, your vocal tract. This is about the length of a baritone vocal tract.
Wow.
When you put that in there, this vocal tract has resonances. That means it likes some frequencies more than other frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Certain lengths of sound waves will reflect and echo back and forth inside this tube and build up a lot of strength. And then those will come out, and we'll hear those more prominently than the sound waves in between those favored frequencies.
So the vocal tract starts in the vocal cords and finishes in the mouth, right? For
Yes,
everyone who
yes,
doesn't know.
right.
So you can imagine that your instrument is a tube that starts in the vocal cords, finishing in the lips.
Right, and at the bottom of that tube is mostly closed because your vocal folds closed to vibrate, and the other end is mostly open, the lip end, right? Now you can couple in the nose, but mostly we don't couple it in for most sounds. So if I take this buzz and I put it in this tube, now that begins to have some color.
Yeah.
That sounds about like the French Now we can reshape. Our tube is not nearly this uniform. Our vocal tube is very varied in shape, and we can vary that shape more. We can narrow it here near the lips with like the tongue hump. That would create an E vowel.
E.
And if we narrow it back here near the back of the throat, this is counterintuitive because it doesn't feel like that. But if you narrow it back here, that's an ah vowel. Narrow there and open there. E, ah. So let me prove that to you. Here's the ah, and here's the E. So as I reshape this tube, it's choosing different harmonics to feature, and those different harmonics sound like different vowels. And so as we reshape the vocal tract, we're favoring different harmonics from our voice source, our vocal folds, to create different vowels and the color that we make, the colors that we make.
So in the tube, can you do it one more time so that we can
Yes.
hear it more clear? So the E would be when he presses there.
I'm squeezing there, and the ah would be when I'm squeezing here.
Let's do it again.
And realize I'm putting in the same thing every time.
Yeah.
I can't change that.
Yeah.
So the same set of harmonics, but I'm choosing which harmonics to feature by the shape of the tube. And so if I do this, it features a certain set of harmonics that you then hear as an E. When I do this, it features a different set of harmonics. So if you think of it this way, and there are actually two primary resonances of that tube that create the vowels, the first and second resonances, which we call the first and second formants. And they're featuring different colors. They could feature these colors, they could feature these colors if they're higher or lower or closer together. You could think of it like blue and yellow. So you would hear green.
Yeah.
Because blue and yellow blended together makes green. So you get vowel colors or blends of colors from the vocal tract.
So depending how we use our vocal tract, if for example, if I use more an E and I put the tongue forward and up, that would make the vowel E. If I put the tongue backwards, it's going to be an ah. But sometimes the vowel changes,
right?
Even when we're not moving the tongue. Is that possible as well?
Yes. And here's why. The higher you sing, the pitch you sing determines the harmonic set that you're playing with. Mm-hmm. And I can show you that, and I probably should do that. I don't know if I've shared my screen or not, but I
Not
will.
yet. Not yet.
Okay. Here is this curved line here shows you which frequencies a resonator doing an ah vowel prefers. It likes the ones that are peaks of these mountains, and it doesn't like the ones that are in the valleys. This down here is representing the harmonics of the pitch that you're singing. The lowest one, the very lowest one down here is the pitch you're singing, and all these other lines are the harmonics that are included in that pitch. As I sing a higher and a higher pitch, notice those harmonics spread out and they get fewer and fewer. What that means is down here, I have a lot of paint colors to paint my sound with. All of these harmonics, each of them have a color, and they're all blending together to create my sound. When I sing a really high pitch, I have very few colors left to make my sound out of. And I can show you this later on the synthesizer.
Yeah.
So as you change the pitch, you can think of this set of harmonics like a set of paints. And as you change the pitch, you are changing your set of paints from which you are painting your vowel picture. So if you sing a low pitch, you got a lot of paints to choose from and to paint with. If you sing a very high pitch, you have fewer and fewer. This is very high. This is a high C.
This is like this, or is even higher?
It's the C6, the soprano high C. Would be about right there.
This one.
And on soprano high C, there are really only like 4 harmonics within the keyboard even. Whereas if you sing middle C, if you sing the C5, the C below that, there are actually 8 harmonics. If you sing middle C, there's 16 harmonics within the keyboard. And if you sing the C below middle C that a tenor or baritone would sing, there are like 32 harmonics within the keyboard. Lots of paints to paint with.
So when you're singing really high, we have less options in regards to vowel, to color, to everything.
And when you're really high, it almost doesn't, it does matter the shape that you make, but the shape that you make doesn't determine the colors that you have to paint with.
Because you still have very little.
The shape that you make can only choose which of the few colors you have that you're painting with. When you're low, not only do your shapes, you have lots of shapes to choose harmonics with, you have lots of harmonics to choose from. So you have lots of options low, which means sopranos singing very high have very limited options of vowel. If they're singing very high, they're limited to just a few vowel colors left. Basses and baritones always have all the colors. They have all the colors. They can make all the vowels very clearly. The higher a voice sings, the more limited the colors. And besides that, if you leave the shape the same of your vocal tract and you move those colors through that shape, the vowel colors migrate because you're changing the shape and you're changing which ones you're featuring. As they move through those peaks and valleys, those harmonics get stronger and weaker. It's like more of this color paint, more of that color paint. So across range, your vowel color constantly changes. We try to avoid that, particularly in popular styles, because we want it to sound speech-like.
Yeah.
So we go into a very bright, a little bit more of a yell-like timbre or a call-like timbre to try to keep it more speech-like, so that the vowels still resemble our speech-like vowels. But eventually, even there, you cannot sing a pure oo vowel very high. You run out of oo paint.
So this will be vowel migration.
Right, vowel migration. So oo paint, pure oo, runs out at C5. And C5 is the C above middle C.
Oh, no, this
one. Just above middle C. That is the end of pure oo paint. However, people can fool us very cleverly above that and convince us that they're singing an oo, even though it's not a pure dark oo. It's an ooh. Ooh. It's not an ooh. Ooh. So when you whoop, whooping is when you celebrate and you go woo, woo, woo. If you cut out that high note that I just did, woo, it's not really ooh.
It's going to be like an
It's more,
ah.
it's more opened up. Right. Whoa. Only the lower ones are pure oo, and so forth. There's always e-paint. E-paint is very high, so there's
Is all
always
the way.
e-paint
So we
available.
always have that one.
But it isn't always advisable because when you get really high, if you only use the e-paint, it will be a really shrill sound. So we tend to modify that one by opening our mouth more and maybe not quite, depending on how high you are.
This is
Right.
very,
When
very
you
interesting.
So here's the situation. This is a voice synthesizer program that's actually free and downloadable, the MADA synthesizer from tolvan.com. And these numbered lines above the keyboard, that number 1 is the pitch you're singing. And these other numbers are the harmonics of that particular pitch. When I move the pitch, the harmonics move with the pitch. They're always in a fixed relationship to the fundamental frequency or the pitch you're singing. So you can see, if you see this black dot is middle C. So when you're singing middle C, there are actually 16 harmonics within the keyboard. When you're singing this C below, there are 32 harmonics within the keyboard if you had that top C up there.
Wow.
If you're singing the C above middle C, there are only 8 harmonics. And high C, soprano high C, that 4th harmonic would be on this top C that's missing. So all those other harmonics, they're still there, but they're off the keyboard and they're getting into the part of our hearing that's weaker. And it's a very high, if you've ever had your ear hearing tested, you know what those sound like way up there. This, there's not a lot of color. All of the color of your sound is within the keyboard, the primary color. It's all in that area there. So if I play those, this is an ah vowel, by the way. These red things here, peaks of those mountains I showed you earlier. There's the first peak and the second peak. Then here, this cluster of peaks up here. So I'll play you this ah vowel. And what I want you to do is notice whenever one of these numbered harmonics moves above that first red mountain peak, you will hear a little color change in the vowel. In fact, you will hear a little bit of color change every time I change the pitch, because every time I change the pitch, that set of harmonics is moving with it, and they're moving very slowly through a spectrum of colors like a rainbow. They're slightly moving through a rainbow of colors, so you hear a very gradual change in the quality, but particularly when a harmonic moves through that first mountain peak, it'll be stronger in the peak and then it gets weaker on the other side of the peak. And you'll hear a color change in the vowel. Here we go. And I'll just give you this heads up. In an ah, there is an ah color, and there is literally an o color, but we hear it as an ah. Ah, those first 2 colors, my 2 paint colors, are ah and ah, or ah and ah. Ah. So when it shifts, you hear more of the other color, what I call the undervowel color, every time it shifts across that first resonance. So this is a little bit of a brighter ah here. That's a slightly warmer ah going ahead. You hear that shift a little bit more to that ah. You hear more of the ah color on the high side, and you'll really hear this next one.
That's the second harmonic passing
Right.
through the first resonance.
Right. The second harmonic passing through the first resonance, that's what we call in classical land covering, turning over, closing, going from open timbre to close timbre. That happens in every genre. It's just a question of where it happens. In most popular genres, what we do is we raise that first resonance to delay that so that it happens way higher in the range and in a brighter timbre, a more speech-like brighter timbre. And there are various ways that we do that in popular genres. Some genres will do it by raising the larynx. When you raise the larynx, all of the resonances move higher. Let me show you. I will play an ah vowel, and then I will effectively raise the larynx of this ah vowel so that you hear
Oh, you can
what
do that.
happens. So you can see how that when you raise the larynx, you're shortening the tube.
Yeah.
When you shorten the tube, the color of the voice goes brighter and shallower in a way. It loses some of the depth, but it's brighter and clearer. And if the genre
it's not losing harmonics, as I can see here.
Nope. This is the harmonic, but
the depth. Do you
the
lose
harmonics,
the undervowel?
The undervowel is still there. It's just a higher undervowel.
Oh, okay.
Because the undervowel is determined by where this first resonance sits. And if the first resonance sits higher, the undervowel color is a higher color.
Okay, this is very interesting. And I mean, we haven't talked about, but Kenneth speaks a lot about a vowel composed by the undervowel and the overvowel, right?
Yep.
Would you explain just a tiny bit about this?
Yeah, so the undervowel is whatever color this first resonance is contributing to the sound. And the overvowel is whatever color harmonic this second resonance is contributing to the sound. In my first book, I called these the first and second formants.
Yes.
They're literally the first and second resonances, but what we hear are the first and second formants, but you don't have to worry about that confusion. So I will demonstrate to you this way. Here's my first resonance of a set of vowels. I'm going to pronounce E, A, A, O, U. And I'm going to close my glottis and thump my larynx, and you'll hear the pitch of that first resonance. That's the first resonance pitch. Now I'm going to whisper, and you'll hear the pitch of the second resonance of that same group of vowels, and it will sound like this. You can hear the first one faintly.
So you hear both harmonics.
Right. You can hear both of them like a duet. And those two resonances are featuring harmonics that create, you heard the vowels I was doing, because they were featuring, in this case, they weren't harmonics, they were just frequencies, because I was doing a noise, and a noise is made up of an infinite number of frequencies. It's not just a set of harmonics. It's like just every noise. White noise is every frequency. It's like white light is every shade of every frequency of light. Yeah. White noise is every frequency of sound, but you still can hear vowel colors when I do the whisper.
Yeah.
Now I think it might be useful to show them that
Mm-hmm.
So this is that sequence of vowels, E, A, O, U. Here you see that first resonance is that lower bright band. The second resonance is that higher bright band. And then these higher ones are even higher hissy bright ring that we call the singer's formant cluster. Let me play this quickly for you and let you hear it and see it at the same time. And to show to you what each one is contributing, this is just that lower one filtered out by itself. By itself, you will hear its true color, which is just a. When we get over to the O and the U, you'll hear very clearly O and U. But under the E, it will sound kind of like. Under the Ah. Let's listen to this one. It's kind of quiet.
Yes, so you can hear better the O and the U.
Right. Now on the second one, this is filtered. The second resonance or the second form, and you'll hear them all of the vowels other than the O and the U, because the O and the U get their color from that under vowel, that lower resonance. All the other vowels get their true identity from this over vowel. Listen to this. On the O and the U, you're hearing kind of an oh. That's the over vowel color above an O-U under vowel color. So we're making our vowels by featuring these sounds in the sound that you hear. And then finally, the singer's formant cluster above it is just a lot of hissy, bright E. This is the top octave of the piano. And it gets weaker towards the U because U's are duller. Just to hear this one more time. The point of all this is to learn this counterscrotal whisper thing, is to learn kinesthetically what it feels like to tune those things. And if I want more of the over vowel color, I can feel how to do that. If I want more of the under vowel color, I can feel how to do that from having done this counterscrotal whisper. It's not like a typical whisper. In a typical whisper, we do a raised larynx and a narrowed throat to highlight the higher frequencies where most of those vowels are defined. You notice most of the vowels get their identity from higher frequencies, so we tend to do come over and see me. We don't do, which sounds a little sketchy. If you do a counterscrotal whisper, very low, very relaxed in the neck, and almost under-articulated, like you're not exaggerating the shapes.
Oh, okay.
Almost like a ventriloquist, until you get to the there I have both parts. Typical whisper, proof. The O and the U, a pure O and a pure U, do not occur in a typical whisper because you've cheated to the high frequencies. So we cheat and we do this. We can't do a pure is a low frequency sound. It needs that under vowel to even be there. We accept that as an O, but it's not really an O. And that's the one that you use in a lot of popular sounds. You use the higher frequencies.
Because when we hear classical singing or like they're singing very high, they're not doing pure vowels. They cannot do a pure U, as you said, after the C, right?
Right.
So
there's the word context. The context of the language helps our brain decide what to think that vowel is sometimes, even though it isn't the true color. Red is red is red is red. But we might interpret an orange red as red depending on the context in which we see it. Same thing happens with vowels. If we know the word, our brain tricks us into believing that it's the right vowel, even if it's a little bit different than the speech level version of the vowel.
And so there is the migration when the vowel just changes because of the harmonics that it has inside. And then we have the modification, that is what we're talking about, right? That is the active how do you call it?
Active vowel modification.
You said you had an example, right, of someone modifying their
Yes, actually, I could pull up an E vowel. So an E vowel has a very low first resonance. It's like an octave lower than the ah. You hear that's like an octave? Yeah. So that E vowel, you don't want to sing higher than the first resonance of a vowel if you want a full sound, because your pitch that you're singing will be in the valley in between two resonances, and your fundamental won't be resonated very much at all. You'll just get the high frequencies, which will make it sound thin and shrill. So if you want a full sound, you want to move the resonance of the vowel that you're singing to match the pitch you're singing when you sing higher. So for example, So this is a soprano, and she's going to be singing an E vowel. And what she's going to do is she's going to have her mouth more open, but her tongue dorsum very high so that it sounds like an E. I'll play this for you, then I'll demonstrate how to do it.
Okay.
But you'll see her mouth will be very open, but it sounds reasonably like an E vowel. So you sort of see how she's
Active modifying. Yeah.
She's opening her mouth more in the front, but she's letting her tongue dorsum stay very high. I'll show you how to do that with the chiaroscuro whisper. If I find my E pitch, which is this pitch here,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that target, that auditory target, that sound target, as I open my mouth. I want my neck to be relaxed. I want to open my mouth more, but I want to keep making this pitch and that E-like quality, like this. That actual shape will work for a high pitch on an E vowel. If I speak through it at low pitch, you will see how modified it is. It's a strange sound.
Yeah, it would be.
E, E, E. But if I sing high, E, 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 makes an E-like sound up high and makes an A sound down low.
So
That
when
is
we
an
go
active
lower,
mo-
you're going to actively modify that E.
When we go lower, I'm going to come back to a speech-like shape with my mouth closed. E, 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 E. So I'm opening my mouth. What does opening the mouth do? If this is being
Makes
kept the
it feel
same,
longer.
if this is being kept the same by keeping my tongue dorsum high,
Yeah.
what is opening my mouth doing? Watch. It's raising that lower resonance.
Oh.
You're hearing that E.
Yes.
But I'm keeping this one the same. And I could do that with any of those close vowels. Here's the A. In speech, I keep it the same. I'm raising the first resonance, keeping the second, the over vowel the same to identify the vowel, because the identity of that vowel is the over vowel. For O and U, I don't have the option. For O and U, I just change to a more open vowel. Because the O and the U are defined by the under vowel, when I need to start opening those, I'm actually just changing the vowel. So if I go from
Yeah.
that's what I do to actively modify an U for a high pitch on an U vowel. And it's really not an U anymore. It's a more open vowel. But in the word context, our brains believe it. We're okay.
Yeah.
If we know the word, we accept it as being U-like.
This is very interesting because, I mean, singers have been doing this for a long time. And now we understand that it's the vocal tract trying to find those harmonics. They're just trying to find those resonances. And so this is a lot of information. It's great for all the singers. So I hope everyone can get their hands in the book and start reading this material. I think it's great. Where can people find you? Are you doing courses nowadays?
I do. The easiest way to find me and remember this is just kenbozeman.com, which is my book website. But on that book website, on the first page is a little bio, and a little bit down in there is my activity website, my faculty website. And it has all of my activity, my publications, some recordings of when I used to sing, and my schedule of activities. So if you go to kenbozeman.com, you'll find this faculty.lawrence.blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's a long one. But there you can find all my activity and my publications and so forth, and where I'm presenting and so forth. And I just wanted to let people know this information can seem overwhelming at first. But really, it usually takes a person 3 or 4 passes through it and they begin to get the hang of it. It's really what great singing has always been. We're just understanding what's under the hood. We're understanding in more detail what's under the hood. You still do it kinesthetically. You still sing primarily to express emotions.
Yes.
And through colors. And just we now understand how those colors are being formed a little more specifically. But you motivate it by playing with these colors and the feelings. And rather than thinking about formants and harmonics, you don't sing that way. That just lets you know where things are going to happen and why they're going to happen, in those places. And that takes a little bit of study to understand why things are happening, where they're happening, why they have to happen there. And that's just acoustics. It's not an opinion. It's just fact.
I do agree that at the end of the day, singing is about expressing emotions and feelings. So please never lose to all of you that expression and that joy that singing brings to all of us. And but I do think that the more information we have, the freer we are, and the more we can understand our instrument, which is quite complex. If you want to learn more about acoustics, please go. You can get Ken's book in Amazon, or you can go to his website. Thank you so much.
There are also ebook versions that you don't have to worry about shipping.
I have the Kindle version. But yes, thanks a lot, Kenneth. This was a great gift to all of us and to all the community. Hope to see you soon.
Wonderful. Good. Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.